Hello, and maybe I should say namaste. Thank you so much for allowing me to say a few words as you gather for your third annual National Kids Yoga Conference. I sincerely wish I could be there with you for this occasion. Let me start by thanking everyone for the incredible work that you are doing to bring yoga forth and the benefits of yoga. Increased health, more mindfulness, more consciousness to our communities. Your efforts are touching lives, are improving well-being, and we know that that has a multiplier effect, not just for individuals, but it reverberates out into the world. By helping children and teens learn this at the earliest of ages, you're equipping them with tools that not only help them manage stress, develop greater awareness, but you are actually helping them to manifest more of their truth and potential in this world, which will go on and touch and empower other folks. Look, I've seen the data on yoga and what it does for people that have this practice in their lives. In fact, when I was mayor of Newark, I witnessed firsthand the tremendous impact of serving children and giving them the tools and support to help manage stress, anxiety, and their emotions. I saw it through yoga, I saw it through meditation, and I saw the unassailable, measurable impact it could have on people's lives. I believe that young people are our greatest natural resource, and we should give them all the tools they need to develop their genius. And I want you to know that what you all are doing is in concert with those aspirations. So educators, mental health professionals, parents, and yoga teachers across the nation, all of you are participating in creating the benefits of such social and emotional learning of what it means for this physical movement, this wellness, what it really means for the strength of our evolution as a people. It is so important to me that we continue to come together to embody positive change, that we do what has been called to by great leaders of generations past, to be the change we want to see in this world, to understand that when we are strong, at our core, we can manifest more strength in the world. No change is possible without the commitment and compassion of people using their unique skills, working within their communities, contributing one to another. It's what I can think of often and call the conspiracy of love. Each of us shining our lights as bright as we can, illuminating the lives of others, inspiring other people to shine brightly as well. So as you continue what's going to become, I think, a stronger and stronger annual tradition, please continue to press forward with your energy, with your light, and with your loving kindness. Please continue to make sure that we are doing everything we can to empower our children, to bring strength and peace to the core of multiple individuals, so that that strength and peace is more manifest in our nation and in the world. Thank you for this kind invitation to be a part of this event. I look forward to your continued service, to your continued light and continued love. Again, namaste. Hello, and maybe I should say namaste. Thank you so much for allowing me to say a few words as you gather for your
So exactly what Corey said. We were so honored for him to take the time out and make this video and welcome all of us and really emphasize the work that we do and the passion that we have. And it's nice to be noticed on a national level of just how important this work is. So we are making progress. It is our third National Kids Yoga Conference, and we are so excited for this weekend. There's one thing that Corey didn't mention, and it is my absolute favorite, most favorite part of this conference. And a lot of people don't know about it, so I've been trying to figure out now for weeks, how do I say it? What's the perfect way to say it? What do you need to know? What do you not need to know? And I don't know if there's a perfect way to say it, so I'm just gonna say it. Every year, and this is our third year doing so, we have a group of teens that come. And with the teen track, we invite 20 to 30 teens to come and participate in an experience just like you guys have. And we offer scholarships for the teens. And what we're noticing is that our request for scholarships goes up year after year. So this year we scholarshiped 24 of our teens, and they literally come from all over the place, all across the country, from places that you would never expect. And they literally wake up really early in the morning to get here. And they do it every year, and every year I lose sleep. Are they gonna make it? Are they gonna make it? Are they gonna make it? And they get here, and once again, they got here. So a big round of applause for the teens. Yes. And one of the things that's been happening is our teens are starting to come back. So they come for 1 year, and they have said to me, that was the best thing I've done in my life so far. This is a life-changing event for me. I want to come back. I want to share this with my friends. I want my friends to come back. And it's super, super meaningful for me, and it's one of the reasons why if there's ever any question about this conference, I really want it to happen for the teens. We're fundraising for the teen scholarships this weekend. Our goal is to raise $500 for each teen, and that will allow us to give them not just tuition and registration here, but also to pay for their accommodations so they can actually have a place to rest their heads and they can eat while they're here too. We had a lot of requests for that this year, and unfortunately we weren't able to accommodate it. So we want to be able to accommodate those requests for room and board and for travel for next year. So anything that you can gift this weekend, we welcome it. There are donation cards at the information table, so please take time out this weekend. I'll remind you maybe once or twice throughout the weekend, but the teens are here. Some of them might feel comfortable talking to you or about their experience. Some of them will be keynoting tomorrow. But if you want to talk with me more, I'm here. But I want to make sure that in my service to the teens that we take time to really honor them for being here and for supporting them in their efforts to be here. So thank you for listening to that. And there is, again, the donation card, and there's also a link set up where you can give to, and that's floating around. So thank you. So the next part is Dr. John Ratey, who has come from us via Los Angeles, but really from Massachusetts, and he's at Harvard, and he is well known for his work around exercise and neuroscience and exercise in the brain, and he has really taken a passion for yoga and the meaning of yoga as it relates to exercise. So he says it best. So I'm going to let him. Afterwards, we do have his books for sale. He's the author of Spark and Go Wild. They are for sale, and he will be here signing books. So if you are interested in purchasing a book or having him sign your book, he'll just be over at the table to your right this morning. So thanks.
Yes, for those of you who don't know me, I've written 11 books. One of the first ones was Driven to Distraction, back some 23 years ago, on attention deficit disorder. People know that book a little bit? Yeah. Dr. Hallowell and I are writing another book coming out probably in a few years, ADHD 2.0. It's about the modern ADD and also focusing on ways to treat ADD without necessarily going to medication. But anyway, on my journey, I realized, we realized right from the beginning that exercise and movement was a key part of taming our brains, making our brains work better, and eventually led to my writing this book, Spark, and then Go Wild, which looks at movement and the brain and how this really plays a huge role in our lives. There's my website, there's my Facebook page. Yesterday we posted a news article every day on my Facebook page on exercise or meditation or yoga, very popular amongst teachers and others and practitioners. So I urge you to go, whatever, friend me. I'm not really into the Facebook page, but I have somebody who is, which is great. And Spark has taken me around the world, literally, and to work with teachers, practitioners all over. Should say by word of introduction also, one of my very good friends and colleagues is Bessel van der Kolk, who has really led me to understand more about yoga and not just about exercise. But let me start, hopefully. Hello? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, I'll just use this. Okay. You were supposed to be up here. Go on. But anyway, I start off the book by something that just got me into this whole thing. I'm a psychiatrist, and I've always been aware of how exercise and movement play a role, not only in with attention problems, but with mood, with anxiety, with stress in general. And then I heard about this school in 2003 that in Naperville, Illinois. Do we have anybody from Illinois in the crowd? Yes, okay. Naperville, amazing place. They were on front line back in 2003. We were beginning to worry about obesity. They were on front line because only 3% of their children were overweight. Not one child in their high school was obese. And they had revolutionized the PE program some 20 years before and had this PE culture where fitness for all and participating in all kinds of activity. Well, so they had 3% of their kids were overweight, and that was interesting. But more interesting is some years before that, the school took, 99% of the kids took the International Science and Math tests, which every country takes every 3 years. We took it last year, along with all the other countries, and we came in 19th and 20th in the world. They took it as a country, and they came in #1 in the world in science and #6 in math. And they spent 45 minutes a day in movement, exercise, activity, and yoga. Okay, so that's propelled me into working with kids and again with teachers. My whole career has been talking to teachers about ADD, about learning problems, about autism. I'm doing a study up with autistic kids now, using movement, using yoga principles in part, but always to what we know is that exercises, movement, helps to regulate our brains emotionally and optimizes our ability to learn. And that's what I've talk about all the time. I'm going up to the University of Pennsylvania tomorrow to lecture all morning to a graduate course on exercise and how this brings about a sense of well-being for all of us. Now, yoga is amazingly getting a lot of play now. You know, exercise as a whole has a tsunami of information coming out. Now we're starting to see this come out with yoga. I'm talking about in the science literature. We're starting to see that, and I'm here to urge you to push it, because it's right behind exercise and aerobic, anaerobic, all kinds of activity have an effect on our brain. And I hope I have time to help to get you to understand that. And yoga, to me, is all about self-regulation. That's what you're trying to do with your kids, to get them to regulate themselves, to let them know about how they can hold things in, keep their attention, accomplish their goals, not be too bothered by stress, build up that resilience, build up grit, which is a popular book these days. And it's all about building up the internal belief that they're okay, that they can do it, that they can meet the challenges. And this is a wonderful paper which came out a few years ago now on how yoga might be understood to work, both from a top-down and a bottom-up approach. The top-down approach is getting into those postures, holding them, reappraising them, keeping yourself with it. Bottom up is using all the bodily information and managing it to achieve your goal, but to stay with it, to regulate yourselves. And that's what you do and what happens when you come out of a yoga practice. And there's much data that is now coming out. These are recent papers coming out showing that yoga has an effect on helping kids and, of course, adults to self-regulate, to keep to deal with disciplinary issues, to deal with anxiety, stress, and mood. Now, the revolution, which I talk about in Spark, started really in the mid-90s when we began to learn that exercise played a role in our brains. And this study out in California really started it, where he was a member, Carl Kottman had been a member of a team looking at what prevented the onset of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline in the elderly. There were 3 factors. One was optimal weight. 2 was continuous learning throughout life. And the 3rd was exercise. And we hadn't known about exercise as affecting the brain too much at that point. So he did this study, got a bunch of mice, taught them how to run in these running wheels, did the mice SATs first, had them run in the running wheels, which they loved, and they ran for 4 kilometers a night on average, retested them after 7 to 10 days, found out that their SAT scores went up 20%. But then was able to look at their brains, right? He looked inside their brains, and what happened? Their brains were thicker, and they weighed more than the non-exercising mice, their brothers and sisters who weren't exercising. So not only were they smarter, but their brains grew. And this led to what I call the revolution. And since that time, the number of papers that we have every day, I get my fix every Saturday morning. I get sent about 100 new papers that have come out that week on the effect of exercise on the brain. It's incredible, and we know so much about it. And this substance, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is released when we use our brains and when we use our brain cells. Now we have 100 billion brain cells, and when they're clicking away, we release all kinds of stuff. As well as now we're learning our body sends up information via hormones and factors and all this stuff that comes up to the brain to help regulate our brain, to help us deal with stress, to help us also improve our ability to take in information and log it in and help our brain cells grow. And that's really what yoga does. It prepares our brain to be in the highest state of what we call neuroplasticity. That means our brain cells are growing, our ability to grow. And the only way we learn anything is for our brain cells to grow. So this BDNF stuff is really important, and he measured it, and he found out that it went up 2 to 3 times what it was before in these poor little mice who really like to run. 4 kilometers a night is really hard for a mouse, by the way. That means they really had to be on it. Now, again, we have lots of data on mice and rats and exercise, and now they're doing weightlifting and all this other kind of stuff to show the effects. But it's awful hard to get them to do a yoga pose. And this is the problem. We don't have that kind of fine data, or we're getting there. We're getting there, I'm telling you. So we need to increase the numbers of studies to really legislate, to bring about saying, okay, this is what happens. We know this is what happens. We have some idea. We have all kinds of nice MRI studies that are coming, and EEG studies, because people like that. They get moved by that. They say, okay, if you're changing the brain by exercise and by yoga, this is what happens. And BDNF, for instance, now we can measure that. And so after yoga practice, we see the BDNF grow in the brain, more of it. It goes up about twice as much in humans. And what's BDNF? BDNF is fertilizer for the brain. It's brain fertilizer. I called it Miracle Grow for the brain years ago, because that's what it does. So when we use our brain, we are making more of this stuff, which, and in yoga practice, this happens, and other studies have come out showing that. And now in neuroscience, we look at BDNF as the mother of all growth factors for the brain. It preserves our brain. It makes our brain in a state of equanimity. It's an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety factor, and an anti-stress factor. It competes with our stress hormone. It competes with all the stress factors that we know of. So I started off by looking at evolution and why we need to exercise and how we evolved. Well, we evolved over 300 million years, but really over the last 8 million years, when we were hunter-gatherers, we developed these big brains that we have. And why did we develop these big brains? Well, we developed them to be the evolutionary victors, to be be able to adapt to new environments. So we grew this brain from the motor cortex, which is here, out. The front part of our brain we evolved. We had more of it. And this is the part of the brain that we think with. So people said early on that that which we call the thinking brain is really the moving brain. Because what happened, we developed these nerve cells in the front part of our brain to help us move better. And we co-opted them as we evolved to become our thinking brain, our control brain, our CEO, the executive function part of the brain. And we have all kinds of studies showing how exercise prevents the onset of Alzheimer's disease, showing, and this is a group of 69-year-olds, and quickly looking at them over a 6-month period when they started to exercise, the areas that you see in these MRIs, the blue and the yellow, are areas of brain growth. Their brains grew. And we know that this happens in humans and in kids and in mice and in rats. We know that we're making new brain cells every day, and it's stimulated by movement, by exercise, by yoga. And we have studies now looking at that in humans. And this is an area of the brain that grows, and that's an area of our memory center, the hippocampus. But it's also an area that has to do with controlling stress. This is a stress control center that turns on the sympathetic nervous system, that initiates a fight or flight response. We used to think it was just the hypothalamus, but now we know that the binding sites for cortisol are mainly in the hippocampus, and some people will know about cortisol, I think. But anyway, and so this study, so the hippocampus now we've been following, and so there's a study out looking at yoga and the hippocampus in the elderly. People that started to do yoga, their hippocampus grew. And this is what we want. We want to have more cells there to help manage our stress response. And we even see this in our children. The more fit they are, and these are fourth graders, the more fit they are, the bigger their hippocampuses are. Huge. It's really hippocampi, but hippocampus is, you know. But believe me, this is a big deal. That means there's more memory cells. But as you'll see in a minute, I hope that I get there, is that the cells that they add are cells that have release GABA. Have you heard about GABA, anybody here? You should know about it because yoga increases the release of GABA in our brains. Well, not only that, but we're showing that if you have continual movement, you increase the cells that produce GABA that help put the brakes on, our reactions to stresses. Now, one of the big things that we see with movement of all sorts is a reduction in discipline problems. And this is what we saw with exercise right away, but also now with yoga. We're seeing a drop in aggression. Why? Because aggression, impulsivity, discipline problems in the classroom start when there's a lot of impulsivity in our kids. And yoga has a way of helping reduce that because you're changing the brain. You all know that, you all feel that when you get up from a yoga practice, you feel different. I have a schizophrenic woman who does yoga every week, and she said that's her best day because she feels so differently. She feels not only that she finished it, which is important, but she was able to get there, so her self-esteem is better, but she changed the chemistry in her brain, and that's what we're looking for. So with exercise, we have all kinds of data. Going into a school, an inner city school, where there was lots of problems looking into grade school, starting 35 minutes a day before class of exercise for all the kids, running and calisthenics and bikes and all that. What they found over the first year, this is a school in Kansas City, Missouri, what they found, they got healthier and all that on all the measures, but there was a 63% drop in disciplinary problems over the course of the first year. This also happened in Charleston, South Carolina, where they did a similar kind of thing, and this was in junior high school kids, having them exercise in the morning for 35 minutes. What they found there is an 83% drop in discipline problems. Very difficult population, inner cities kids, very difficult. Hi. Oh, no. I'm sorry, I came all the way from Los Angeles. I'm going to talk a little bit longer. Now, my dog, who I mentioned at the beginning, his name is Jack. He's a Jack Russell. The reason I bring him along is because all the Jack Russell, the breed has attention deficit disorder. And instead, when I got him, I took him to the vet. The vet said, put him on Ritalin now. Instead of doing that, I couldn't start him on yoga, but I started him with an exercise program. So where I took him outside and I ran him for 15 minutes every morning. And then he was able to do his homework after that. Once you get the brain activated, once you get the attention system going, you know, even my Jack Russell can do it. And this unfortunately is the problem when I don't have the time to take them out. So we turn this front part of the brain on all the time. That's the part of the brain that we looked at so much in attention deficit disorder. We turn this part of the brain on. We light it up. We activate those cells that we developed last to help us regulate our feelings, our emotions, our thinking. And this is a part of the brain that we really think with. So there's yoga, as I say, papers are starting to come out and show that yoga has an effect on this area of the brain to help us regulate our impulses and improve our ability to think and get ourselves in a position where we're better able to take in the world. So they've really given me the hook, and I will shut up. Okay, so wrap it up. I've already wrapped it up. Well, you give me a little more time, but we have... No, I just want to talk to you all, you know, because it's so important. It is so important.
It's okay. You can hold on to the mic. It's fine. You can take it. And you don't have to leave. You're good. Stay here. So we agree it's super important, and we agree that we need to know more, and everything is great. And I don't know if anyone has questions, but what we can do, just to allow you a few extra minutes, is Sinema Foundation is coming up next. So if you guys want to come up and get set up, if there are any questions or if there's any other information that you would like to share, we can continue this conversation.
Yes, you have your hand up right away. Yeah, go ahead.
Has it been proven that if they have high levels of cortisol, perhaps, if they don't get enough stimulus or exercise, that's why their cortisol levels are high, and maybe they need more movement?
I mean, it's not going to be. I mean, it'd be nice if it were one thing. You know, when I talk about the brain, it's like it's chaos theory. Many aspects. No, it is. It is much is going on. It's not simple. If it would be simple, we'd all feel good about it. But cortisol is so complicated. But yes, people that are impulsive and they're out of control, their cortisol levels are higher. But that's not the only bad news. That's not the only one that's generating it. And it's not just anti-cortisol that we're looking for. It's putting the brakes on the brain from being overstimulated. That we see with yoga practice, with exercise, with movement of all sorts. So it's not that simple. Yes? Right.
What the children can do with their parents at home,
yes,
instead of, because a lot of these parents are concerned of medication.
Right.
And I'm talking to a wall with, you know, it's medication seems to be...
Well, medication is terrific, but there are other ways to deal with it, and that's what we're aiming for, to use movement, to use exercise. You know, right from the beginning in Driven to Distraction, 23 years ago, we wrote about yoga, because the idea would be to get everybody meditating. Okay, but the only way you can get an ADD kid to meditate is to take them through yoga first, you know, really. I mean, you can't have an ADD kid say, okay, just start meditating unless they're in a group. Now, I lived as a Zen monk for a month back, and I have ADD, back when I was in college, right? But it was because of the group process. It was every day, all day long. You know, but your kids aren't going to do that. The only way you get, and that's what Hatha Yoga is about, is getting the body and getting the mind prepared to meditate. And with our ADD kids, it's absolutely essential. Yes, way back. Go ahead, scream it.
And this is our last question for today.
Sure, there's a big benefit to do it in the morning, but it doesn't have to be. If you have PE every day and they're focused on fitness, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's best to do it in the morning because one of the biggest problems we have in the world today with our kids is sleep deprivation. They're not aroused, so they come and get their Red Bull or their Monster drink or something or their Starbucks, you know, depending on where you live, you know, to wake up. And so exercise does that. It arouses the kids. It gets them ready and turns on their attention system and also makes them feel better all through the day and prepare them to learn through the day. That's ideal. Unfortunately, in schools, there are all these scheduled businesses that you can't quite do that all the time. But yes, and we started a program when I was working with Reebok called BOKS, B-O-K-S. It's a preschool program where kids come in an hour before school, 3 days a week. It's big here actually in Washington, D.C., and it's very popular. And what the kids, it's now in 2,000 schools, what the kids do is they come in and they play vigorous games. And now they're going to start to add some yoga practice and meditation as well. 2,000 schools in the United States are now all over the world. It's expanding. And the kids come in and they love it because they don't get it in their classes. They don't get it in schools. Playing, recesses being canceled. So, you know, this is just the way it is. So I'm going to have to shut up. Thank you.